Everybody, it's us again. Still on Sunday. Yeah, I just did a video a little while ago showing what Chris and I found. We found at the shop, Record Wonderland, yesterday, and I'll probably put up this video, wait a day or two, so it's kind of not on top with the other one. But yeah, this is what I think I'd mentioned before, that at some point, as Chris and I were, we were just sitting out in the yard at his house, and he mentioned he had a bunch of records that he had put aside that he'd received for free over the last, I guess since like the winter time, in March maybe, and just intended to to give out to people or do whatever with. He didn't want to keep them himself, and he set aside quite a few for myself, and it was unbelievable generosity here. Here's the stack. Pretty. I didn't even count and see how many were here, but just unbelievable. And yep, so it goes. And yeah, I'll just start right in. Won't be able to say much about these because I've only heard maybe just a few of these that I already had before, or in my own collection. Triangulus and Bjorn J. Lind. They just described this as being a Swedish group. The instrumentation, though, is really, I think, would grab any of us who are into this sort of thing. I think there's electronics on here, synth guitar, drum machine, overtone singing, yeah, violin, musical saw from 1985, Breakthrough Records. I would have, if I seen this around with the cover, I would have grabbed it for reasonable. So, very nice. Free Flight, the Jazz Classical Union, Page label, Palo Alto label. Yeah, it looks like a jazz quartet here, playing classical pieces. Various composers. Always like hearing that sort of thing. And of course, being if you're into keyboards, a Fender Rhodes electric piano, Yamaha GS1 synthesizer, melodic and percussion. Wasn't familiar with any of these. Ralph Humphrey on drums though, but that's about the only one. So yeah. Yeah, Free Flight. I had mentioned while I was showing Chris the records from before that I'd picked up, the Bach record, saying I liked organ stuff, and while as we had already gone through this stack, he went down back inside and pulled out a couple of these, which he didn't have to do, but I guess he wasn't as attached to them. Jean Langlois, 20th century French organ music. Got Messiaen on here, who's that right away will compel you. I really like this cover. Photo there. Yeah, I really like pipe organ music, and this definitely seems to veer away from the more traditional, like the Baroque or more devotional type thing. So very neat. Another one, Gerd Zacher organ. This looks even more out there. John Cage, Hans Otte. Right. I think I showed a piano thing of his a while ago. Another really cool cover. Slightly trippy and almost cartoony. And Chris had mentioned on the Heliodor label, which is presents Wergo. He says it was like an American version of Wergo. So, very cool. And again, so many of these I hadn't even heard of before. Fleric, Variations on a Lady, on Polydor. It's from 1978. Chris had said it was kind of like a folky, kind of like a world folk fusion type thing. You get guitars, flute, and violin. So I don't know, maybe it'll be similar to Organ or something along those lines, maybe. Yep. Trilogy, the guitar music of Frederick Hand. I was vaguely familiar with him. Basically classical guitar. Appears to be a lot of his own compositions, and interpretations. Adagio for Ralph Vaughan Williams, A Dance for John Dowland. Elegy for a King in memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So yeah, real nice tributes here. Andy Laverne plays on one of these pieces on Fender Rhodes piano. Michael Moore double bass, Joe LaBarbera drums. So they always like classical guitar or anything acoustic like that. Alex, he described us as a kind of a singer-songwriter folk group. You know, maybe a little lesser known. All women's group here. Which I think I have something else on this label too. Maybe Kay Gardner might have been part of. One of the artists I was vaguely familiar with, Alex Dobkin. And yeah, I have something else comparable, and it's real nice. It's from the mid 70s maybe, or no, 1980. Recorded 1980. So much here. It was incredible. James Galway, Song of the Seashore and Other Melodies of Japan. I like James Galway, what I've heard of his playing. I never had an album of his though. Saw a documentary on him a few years back, which fascinating, quite a life. Irish flautist, and yeah, combination of Japanese melodies, and be interesting to hear his approach to it. Now here's one I've had before. I think I passed it off to someone, and figured I could probably find it pretty easily, and it came around. Northwind. It's another one on the Palo Alto label. Circles in the Fire. Real nice trio for tenor sax, acoustic piano, and 12-string guitar and Dumbeck drum. Another kind of like a chamber jazz from what I remember. At times, maybe even almost like ECM-ish, like maybe like what am I thinking of? Path by Tom Vandergeld, like something along those lines. Maybe not as melancholy, but sort of approach to chamber, sort of chamber jazz. This looked really fun when he showed it to me. Sax as Sax Can. This is a duo for soprano sax by Klaus Kreutziger and Willie Zerginger guitars. I have a hard time pronouncing things today. But yeah, I love small groupings like quartets, trios, duos, and down to solo. So this should be pretty neat. From 1987. Let's see, Europa. Bjorn, Jason Lind, Stefan Sheila. I'd heard of Bjorn before, but another one that was totally new to me. From 1984. I don't think there's any information on the inside. Oh, flute and synthesizers and grand piano and synthesizer. Yeah, this is one that he was saying in particular. Chris was saying I'd really could really get into. I have no doubt. When I'll get around to all these, I don't know. It'll be quite a while. Deuter, Cicada. This is one I've had on cassette for a long time, but I don't think I ever had the vinyl. Longtime fan of his since I was about 16 or so, just going into my junior year of high school. Multi-instrumentalist, flutes, keyboards, guitars, some percussion. Very much created his own world with all these. Also, one of the earliest used nature recordings in his music, and to a really lovely effect. And of course, these covers. Kind of mist in the forest. So, yeah, excellent. Dave Liebman, Lighten Up, Please. He's a horn player I like very much. Soprano and tenor sax. This looks to be more on almost like a pop jazz fusion type thing. He's done a lot of more traditional things. Let's see, there was Lighten Up. There's vocals on here and all kinds of people, instrumentation. Yeah, there's Mini Moog and electric piano, and Pee Wee Ellis is on here. That should be fun and kind of a different side of what I've heard of him. I've heard him in kind of more traditional groups, and the all percussion group he had on ECM in the early days. course, an all-time favorite, which I don't know how many copies I've had of this over the years. At some point I'll pass along. Vapor Drawings, Mark Isham. Of course, an all-time favorite. I think at one time I had like 3 copies of each format of this album. I've loved it so much. And still my personal favorite of his, and just about on Windham Hill. So yeah, just fantastic. If you haven't heard it, sample it. It's gorgeous. Oracle, Glider. Another one mostly new to me. There's one artist on here I was familiar with. If it's the same person, Stephen R.F. Kujala on woodwinds. I'm guessing that's the better known as Steve Kujala. He kind of looks to be another sort of fusiony. You got trumpet and woodwinds, mallets, the piano, electronic keyboards. This is on Chrysalis, actually, 1978. So it should be pretty nice. Yeah, an early example of Kujala. I hadn't heard much of him until some later years. This is one I'd been curious about, and it was neat to see it in the stack. John Siri, not to be confused with the planetarium space musician John Siri. Exhibition. So another one on Chrysalis, 1979. Yeah, it looks to be kind of like more of a fusion type thing. But I'd been curious. I'd seen the cover around, and again the name, so close to the other Siri. So yeah, see what this one's like. Here's another one I've had for a long time, and I might have showed this in my Bertolucci length piano video a while back. Fred Simon short story. Yeah, wonderful. 1984 on Quaver. Mostly acoustic piano, but some synthesizer too. Yeah, just a beautiful impressionistic, great melding between jazz and music that can't really be categorized, or it's difficult to. But, I always recommend this if you see it around. See it around all the time for cheap, and it's been out of print for ages. Tail of the Whale, Matrix. Another one of those covers that you got to check the rest of it. One's curious. This one's from it's on Warner Brothers, 1979. It appears to be another kind of fusion group. Randy Tico is on this. He plays bass, and I'm not really familiar with a lot of the other names. Yeah, it looks to be kind of another kind of sort of fusion-y thing, which I know Chris loves, and he could always point you towards the best stuff, like anything else. There's so many different layers to that kind of music, and there's so much of it kind of skirts other areas too, but it looks to be one of them. Wayne Johnson Trio, Grasshopper. I do have something else by him, a kind of different label. But, it's guitar. I think it's guitar, bass, drums. Yeah, Wayne Johnson here in the middle on guitars. But yeah, it's kind of I remember it being, what I've heard of his music, kind of a lighter, sort of jazz rock fusion. Got a pretty long piece on here. Pilgrimage of 1,000 Days. Almost 14.5 minutes, so yeah. Should be quite enjoyable, I'm sure. From 1983. So, yep. This is another one I've had in the collection before, and I think I got this actually on Chris's recommendation on one of his earlier videos, and yeah, the way he described it. Said I think it was kind of along the lines of Oregon, only more of a solo album. Debbie Firelight. Yeah, really beautiful from what I remember of it. What is she playing here again? Piano, percussion. I thought there was harp on here. I might be thinking of another one. Mary Watkins is on here playing Roland Juno strings. And there's also soprano sax and oboe and percussion. Yeah, very beautiful. A lot like the cover. Really nice energy to it, from what I remember. It looked like fun. The Heath Brothers, Brotherly Love. Thinking right away of like the Modern Jazz Quartet, which I know Gary had done, extensive video about, maybe a few of them, and a group I've only explored here and there, but it'd be nice to hear more of kind of more of that tradition. Percy Heath, yeah, bass. Stanley Cowell on acoustic and electric piano. Oberheim synthesizer. Akira Tana drums, 1981. So yeah, you'll get some interesting shadings and colors with the more traditional jazz, using the electronics, I'm sure. So yeah, very nice. Yeah, again, can't really say much about these. I've heard so little of this. Michael Melvoin with Red Eye. One of those covers you can just kind of free associate on for a while. This one's from 1979 and Discwasher Recordings, which I wasn't familiar with. It looks to be, again, kind of more fusiony stuff. There's synthesizer, electric piano. There's a lot of brass on here. Trombone, trumpet, bass trombone, saxophone. So yeah, we'll see what that's like. Big question is, which one will I start with? Maybe I'll do the stack from the stuff I actually found, at the store before getting to this. It's just so much. This looked really fun, and I think Chris was even saying it was pretty. Or I don't know if he said he maybe sampled some of it. I don't know if you heard the whole thing. Labyrinth? Yeah, Labyrinth featuring Julie Loco with Jasper Van Hoff on keyboards. I love this though, with the guy with the cymbals. He's very determined to, do something. And yeah, on the back right away I recognized Jasper there, and also joined by Bob Malak on saxophone, and George Karlheinz on guitar, Caesar Zoiderwelk on drums. That's from 1985, so yeah, this should be a colorful one. Maybe I'll make this the first listen of this stack, because I'm really curious. Yeah, looks like a lot of fun. Ray Wilkes, Dark Blue Man. Now, made me think of Gary right away, because Chris was saying this is kind of in a Ralph Towner mold, even though he's playing electric. It has that kind of feel to it. Maybe in the compositions as well as the playing. Yeah, he composes all compositions by him. He's joined by quite a few instruments. There's violin, electric piano, drums, bass, saxophones. There's also a couple three solo pieces on here. No, 4. So kind of alternating between solo and a larger ensemble. So we'll see. Jazz Gala concert. A lot of guest soloists here. Stan Getz, Jerry Mulligan, Toots Thielmans. Yeah, geez, it's going to be a kind of all-star cast here. I always like these kind of, again, kind of fun, surrealistic, cartoony covers. Just a group there. Let's see, when's this from? 1976. And Warner Brothers, or Atlantic Warner. So, yep. It's an old favorite, old Narada staple. Bruce Mitchell, Hidden Pathways. I've had this on CD for quite a while. He's up there, among like David Arkenstone and Peter Buffett, Carol Neathan, who do the more electronic side of what's on Narada. Very kind of cinematic, and using the synthesizers of the time. From 1987, Roland D50, Yamaha RX5, Kurzweil emulator. So all fellow synth nerds, take note. Yeah, fun, always fun stuff. And finally, oh yeah, is it finally? Yeah, it is. It's the last one here. Yeah, I didn't even count these, but there's quite a few. Album on Wergo, Gary. We'll talk about that label. Karlheinz Stockhausen, who I don't have a great deal of his stuff. Just a few things on CD. Great German experimental composer. I think there was another edition of this in the shop, but it had a different cover. But Chris had, I was going to pick it up, and Chris is like, "Oh, I already have that on the other format." Can't even pronounce this one. Chrysalis and the rest. And Clavier Stuck soloist Frederick Rajewski, who played with, along with Alvin Curran, who I showed in the previous video, played in Music Electronica Viva back in the... Well, actually, I think they've played on and off ever since the late 60s. But he's an amazing piano player. So, yeah, I'm looking very forward to it. And anytime seeing something in Wergo, you'll know you get something pretty interesting with modern classical. So, yeah. And the music's run out, so it's probably been a pretty long video, appropriately enough. So, yeah, here it is. Incredible stack of very generous free records from Chris. They were free to him and passed them on to me. And thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for a wonderful day as always. Again, we don't seem to get together nearly enough, but and again, it was a little sooner than usual, so it was great. Got to do it more often, and yeah, again, he's one of the greats. Great people. I love him like a brother, and I know many of you have gotten to know him over the years, through his videos and correspondence, and I'm sure have received things from him because he just loves giving, and it's all goes around that circle. So yeah, again, if you haven't subscribed to him, he only has the one video up of he and I, but you never know, he might put one up soon, and at some point, and you'll learn a lot. There's no one I've learned from quite like him, with all this music. So yeah, thanks once again, Chris, and I hope we're all doing well again. And this is what I playing in the background. A bit of silence. Keith Jarrett. And so yeah, not sure when I'll be back on. I've got some things I'm planning to do, but again, with my schedule, I don't know when it'll happen, but hopefully soon enough. So yeah, he's gone now. From the rest of us here, peace, love, and joy.